So today we also have one of our wonderful SEVA teachers helping us with our SEVACon today. She's happens to be a former reporter for ABC 10, Melissa May from Intercom. Hey.
Intercom.
So, and Melissa has interviewed many people and has a wealth of experience to share with us today. So thank you, Melissa, for helping us today and joining us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I can't wait to hear questions that you have, and so proud of everyone that turned in their SEVA entries. So looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So now we happen to have some footage of Melissa from her days at ABC 10. So we're going to roll just a little clip of that just so you can see her in action back when she was working there at Channel 10.
Sacramento and Company, I'm Guy Fair.
And I'm Melissa Crowley. Nice to have you with us.
News 10's Melissa Crowley's live at the Capitol to show us just how badly that help is needed by a lot of people. Melissa?
Definitely much appreciated, Dale, and that was one of the specifics that the governor did touch on. You know, he did say that education will remain one of his priorities. He didn't elaborate on things like community college funding, which is a big concern. He also talked about health care, but didn't talk about the adults that many were hoping would be able to be enrolled in healthy families. But there was some good news for those that have been recently
Melissa,
laid
what
off,
year was this?
who are wondering how much longer they could make
this
it
was
without any help.
2002.
It's hard to take time away from the kids to
And then now we have the HD footage. When was this?
This is 2019.
And so you appreciate the time.
I do. I get a date night too when I'm not working. So.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate
Okay, so there we go. There's a little bit of Melissa in action. So we're just super pleased you're able to be with us today. So thank you.
Thank
and
you.
For all the work at Intercom too. So, all
Some
right.
of my students are laughing.
Yeah.
You guys can tease me later. We'll talk later.
That's great. All right, so to get started today, the first thing is location and lighting. So that's one of the first steps when thinking about shooting an interview is finding that right location and lighting it. So with some help from Kaser at Rio Americano High School, our very own Nick has prepped a quick video to get us started.
Hello everyone, and today we are going to be showing you how to shoot the perfect interview. First, we'll go over lighting and location for your interview. Taking a few minutes to select the optimal location is key to capturing a video that looks and sounds great. Find a quiet spot, inside or outside, that you feel comfortable sharing with the community. Ideally, this location would also relate to the topic of your video. Please be aware of background distractions. That includes audio and visuals. Someplace quiet is key to recording good interview audio. Check the background of your shot for anything that may take attention away from your interview. Making small changes to items in the background or minor camera adjustments can make a big difference. For lighting, we want to make sure that we can see the subject, so adding lights or shooting near natural lighting is always helpful. If you have a ring light, this is a great solution to help make your video shine. Make sure your subject is not standing in front of a bright window or having the sun at their back, as this will leave them in the dark. Here at SECC, most of our interviews are shot using a lighting method called three-point lighting. As the name states, this method requires 3 points of light, a key light, which is our brightest light in our scene, and is used to illuminate the majority of our subject from the front side of the camera. Next is our fill light, which is on the opposite side of the camera and is much dimmer than the key. This is used to just add some better highlight and definition on our subject's face. Finally, our last light in this method is our hair light or backlight. This is placed behind our subject opposite the key in order to separate our subject from the background. Take a look here to see three-point lighting in a complete setup.
And that takes us right into over here. Well, now we have the behind the scenes shot that everybody can see in its full glory here. So let me go ahead and cut to the camera feed so you guys can see Melissa's interview shot as we would actually shoot it. So this would be a typical interview shot, an interview shot that we would be shooting for a SEVA interview or any kind of other interviews.
This is how you'd probably want to position yourself if you're doing your producer interview. Looking into the camera like you're having a conversation with the camera.
Yep, or looking off to the camera, just looking at me like we are right now, and we would just be having a conversation like this. And then Melissa would just make eye contact with me and not looking directly down the lens. That way we can, it just gives us a nicer looking shot because we get that leading looks off to the side of the camera lens there.
if you guys are able to do that. Some of you guys, if you shoot this, one of your friends maybe would set up the tripod and record you, so you could, like Nick was saying, look slightly off to the side. So again, you want to give, no matter who you're talking to, whether it's you or your interview, that you're in a conversation. So whatever makes it feel more conversational, like you're talking versus something really scripted, generally plays off better. And then this is beautiful. These lights here are wonderful. Not everybody has that, Nick. Do you have options and suggestions for, maybe if you're doing it at home or you're not able to get the 3-point, kind of the triangle lighting just the way you want it?
Yeah. So if you don't have, obviously we have these big studio lights here, but there are definitely many options that you guys can use when you're at home shooting an interview. There's a big light that everybody has access to, and that's the sun. So we can shoot during the daytime, shooting in some shade outside, maybe in your backyard. That will work great. We just want to avoid direct sunlight, so we're not getting harsh shadows on our talent's face. Other options are if you're inside, shooting near a window and making sure that that window is not directly behind your talent. You want to make sure it's in front of them with the camera right in between you and that window, so that way you can get some nice light on your face. And some other options that you may have would be like a ring light, or some of you may have one of these lights. These are selfie starlights. Some of you might have access to these from your school. And another option you may have is a bounce. This is called a bounce. And what we use these for is to bounce light. It's basically all it's used for. And let me show you guys what it's used for. You can use anything that's big and reflective. This has 2 reflective sides. One of them is a gold side that's really reflective and really bright. The other side is just like white, almost like paper. So all this does is bounce the light from one source to another. So what I'll do here is I'll switch cameras. And if we look here on the side of Melissa's face right here, we can see it's very dark on this side. So what I'll do in here, I'll flip the camera here so you guys can see it better what I'm doing. So I'm going to take the bounce. See, our main light is over here. It's casting onto Melissa's face here. So if I take my bounce and just put it on the other side, you can see right away, you can see what that does is that's going to bounce that light and then bring it onto the side of her face here. So if I put it away, you can see that really darkens the side of her face. If I bring it back, boom. So that just adds some more definition to the side. A great thing to do if you don't have one of these per se is you can use a poster board, things that you get at the Dollar Tree, big, huge piece of construction paper. That'll work great. Anything that's big and can be reflective.
And if you're at home and maybe you don't have a couple light options, one of the simple tricks we talk about too is just hold your hand in front of your face, and if you're seeing shadows, try to move it to a spot maybe closer to a lamp or a fixture that you have at your home. And then with our students, all of us have, and grown-ups too, we all have cell phones, so you can use a flashlight camera as kind of a last resort. I know some of my students that are on, we're maybe at a game and it gets to be past dusk and you're not sure how the lighting situation is. You could hold this out as a flashlight and use that as an option. So anything to just try to take away some of the harsher shadows for your interview, because you want people to focus on what someone's saying and not necessarily, gee, it's hard to see them. Better to be totally in the shadows or totally in the sun than have kind of that half and half look.
Another option you have for recording your interview is using a cell phone. Cell phone is probably one of the easiest tools to use for your interview, but you need to make sure you shoot your interview horizontally. Remember, your interview will be on television, and I don't know anyone that has a vertical TV, so let's shoot it this way. A camcorder or DSLR will work great too. A tripod is a must when you capture an interview. Make sure it's level and set in a neutral angle and height, not looking up at the subject or shooting down on top. The talent is going to look slightly off camera to the interviewer, like this.
It's about the power of controlled breathing. It's an amazing sport that can be practiced by.
The interviewer sits or stands at the same height as the talent, so that their eyeline isn't looking up or down. Check the chair that the talent is sitting in. making sure it doesn't have wheels or a swivel feature. Many people get nervous when they're being interviewed, so having a solid chair helps to hide the fidgeting.
Anything to add to that, Melissa?
I love the part about the chair. So and sometimes our best job is to make the people that we're interviewing, or one of the biggest things we can do, not only look good, but to be more comfortable. So the lighting plays a role in how good they look, but also where they sit, because people do have a tendency to move a little bit. So yeah, great tips. And I think if you're, again, the best quality video is steady, nicely lit, good audio. Sometimes you have to make do with where you're at in terms of the environment that you're at. You can move to a quieter location in the house, always have a microphone, move to better lighting. But if you don't have a tripod, that's definitely the first option, I would say, always a priority. But we try to hold the phone if it's horizontal really close. We call it the chicken wing, or you're able to prop it up somewhere where you feel that it's going to have
Like
the
a
steadiness.
bookcase?
Yeah, bookcase would work. We've seen some of like the cooking instructional videos. They're able to prop it up on the table on books. So whatever you think is going to make it look best. And if you're interviewing someone at home, really important to have them kind of be eye level if they can. So to have them sit down. I'm not the tallest person. So for me, a tripod or sitting down to do the interview can make everybody a little bit more comfortable too.
And just real quick, I'll go over headroom real fast. You can see here, the headroom in this shot is pretty good. And I'll show you what we get a lot of the times with our interviews that we don't like. So a lot of the times we'll get interviews that look like this.
Okay.
So that is, or we'll get it where it's her head will be cut off. So obviously we want to get right in the middle where we can get nice headroom, just a little bit above your talent's head. That's what we're looking for when it comes to proper headroom. Just want to make sure that their head's not cut off and that we don't have a giant space above them going all the way to the ceiling. Very important. So, yeah.
And you guys sometimes have the choice too, because I know in our atrium at our school, it's not the optimal lighting with this. So it's okay to say, think about where it's going to be. Would you mind if we move this to your office? Or are you okay if we go out in the hall? Or all the beautiful selfie lighting and the beautiful golden hour, that's generally the best outdoor lighting as well too. So you can, the stuff that works in pictures works really well for interviews too.
That's a great point. To not shoot your interviews, if you're shooting outside, don't shoot right at high noon, because that sunlight is going to be right above your head and it's going to be the brightest shadows you're going to get. So if you can shoot early in the morning or late into the evening as that sun starts to set, the lighting's going to be a lot better. So
one of the other things that we end up doing on a lot of our interviews is if there are no chairs that are solid, that we just have spinning chairs, one of the things we do, and it'll also help with the height of the individual, is we actually have them sit on the desk, like there in the classroom. So a lot of our interviews are done there. So I know teachers may frown upon that, but it's really helpful because it does get them a little bit higher, and also gives a stable place for people to respond with. So
yep. And if you are sitting on a table, if you can maybe put something to put your feet on, like a chair, put your feet on that chair, because a lot of people, when they have their feet dangling, they'll swing them back and forth, just as another nervous fidgeting thing. So if we can mitigate that as much as possible, it'd be awesome.
If you have a microphone that connects to your phone or camera, this is the time to use it. If your audio is good, that will make your video even better. We use lavalier microphones since they are small and we can hide them under a layer of clothes. It's important to place the microphone about 5 to 6 inches away from the talent's mouth. Be sure to use headphones to verify the audio signal. As a final check, do a test clip to make sure everything is looking and sounding perfect prior to shooting your entire interview.
Thanks.
Hi.
Okay, so my question was, how does lighting help change the tone of the interview?
Tone of the interview. Great question. Okay. Do you want me to go into that?
Yeah, jump in there.
Okay, sure. So it really depends on what tone you're going for. Obviously, this kind of lighting setup is more generic and can go for any kind of interview, and you can use it when whatever. But if you're going for more dramatic, obviously moving your lights so where you get those harsher shadows on your subject's face, that'll give you something more dramatic. If you are going for the more dark, sinister look, you can bring those lights to turn them down and maybe having your hair light be your only source of light, that will give you really harsh shadows on the front of your subject's face. So it really all depends for what kind of tone you're going for. And then just maybe looking up some examples as far as what you're looking to do, and then trying to replicate that. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I know, for example, during the political season, when you're interviewing people, or maybe you're talking to, say, a couple different teachers or school board members, or both sides of an issue, it's just important to keep the lighting consistent, so you don't visually give the impression that one person is maybe more shadowy or less reputable because they're dark and shaded, and then someone else is in the bright sunlight, even if that's just the time of day you happen to do the interview. So sometimes it might give a subtle impression that maybe one person is more trustworthy or has a better answer, just because of how good the quality of the lighting is. So if you're not going for like a genre type, try to keep the lighting as similar as you can, so everybody's reflected in their best light.
Great tip. Awesome.
Good question. Thanks for checking on
Great
that.
question.
All right. So back to audio, Nick.
So back to audio. Well, I covered a lot of things in that video. Let me, do you have anything you want to say about? Obviously, you want to try to shoot somewhere where there's not a lot of background noise. We have a little bit of background noise in our warehouse here, just coming from outside. So we're wearing lavalier microphones that are super directional, and these don't pick up a lot of background noise. So that helps for using different kinds of microphones. Is going to give you different kinds of background noise. If you're using a laptop mic or the mic on your phone, it's going to pick up everything. So if you are using a microphone that's on camera, the best thing to do is to get really close to that camera. Get as close as you can, because then that microphone will start to only hear your voice, especially if it's in an automatic mode. It'll only pick up your voice as much as it can. If you're way in the background, it's going to pick up everything, including your voice. So if you can get closer, all the better.
Like just school interviews and stuff like that, if you're interviewing students at lunch, definitely want to use a microphone for that. Microphone, when you can, is always better. But if you're with your phone, like Nick said, get as close as you can, or maybe take someone aside. Be mindful of what's in the back too. Like if someone's opening and closing a door, that's going to be picked up in the mic. Or if you're in the hallway, try to just get in the best optimal place for it, that you'll have the best quality audio too. Sometimes you're outside and you just have to go with it. So try to just make a judgment call and make it look the best you can with what you have, whether it's your phone or you're able to get a microphone plugged in. But if you do have headphones, that's a great way to monitor the audio and make sure that it's okay, so you don't have to go back and get it again.
And a big thing too, record a test clip. Nobody records a test clip anymore. And then they turn an interview and it sounds not the best. So, record it, have everything set up the way you want it, and then listen to it, really listen to it. Put in your headphones and listen to that test clip to see if it does sound perfect. And then if it doesn't, make some changes and try it again.
And I have something to add too about that. I remember one of my first interviews that I did, the interviewer subject wanted music to be playing in the background, so they turned music on. Now, do we think this is a good idea or a bad idea? Nick and Melissa, I'll ask you, what do you think about that?
I'm going to go with no on that, because once the level is in the clip, you can't split that and adjust it. That would be my take. And then sometimes you'll maybe add music into like our school news after you have the audio levels or track laid down. So as a rule, you want what the person is saying to be spotlighted, so you'll be able to hear them well. So if you have anything that distracts from that, background music or audio, I think it's better to do that separately and say, you know what, we could always go back and add that later. I want to really make sure we get to hear what you have to say. That would be my 2 cents on that. You have more quality control.
Yes.
That's right. And we also have to be concerned with the copyright issues and implications too, with whatever that music might be. The next step, Melissa, how do you conduct an interview? You've done tons
Piece
of
of cake.
So what are some of the things that you keep in mind in approaching an interview and tackling that activity?
And this is where all these tips, we really hope help you guys shine at what you want to do. Because for some people, asking questions is more comfortable. For other people, answering questions is more comfortable. But the biggest thing to keep in mind is that it should be more of a conversation. We want it to come across as you're having a conversation with someone, and they're probably even more nervous than you are. So a couple rules of thumb. I always like to encourage people to answer in as complete sentences as they can. Try to avoid what we call those yes/no questions. For example, instead of saying, did you have a good day today? Someone could say yes or no, but describe what you did today. And I always like to start off with a question, tell me about your name and your favorite thing to have for breakfast to make them a little bit more comfortable. I always still jot down a couple thoughts in my report and notebook here to make sure, it's okay to be prepared and have a couple bullet points. But another thing that comes up when you're doing an interview, you want to ask questions, but almost just as important and critical is being a good listener. Because as people are answering your questions, if you're not listening, you might miss something that's really cool that they said. You might, what, can you follow up on that for me? Or, wow, I didn't know that you worked there. Or tell me what that was like. So you want them to elaborate on their answers in a conversational way. And if you're listening, it's more part of their conversation, making that good eye contact. You're prepared, you know what you want to ask, but you're also listening to the responses. And saying maybe they didn't quite answer the question that you need them to answer, you can say, oh, that was really interesting, thank you. I want to get back to, and then because you were listening, steer them back to what you need for your piece. Or in your case, when you're doing your SEVA interviews, you want to answer in as complete sentences as you can and as conversational as you can. So it might take a couple tries to get it right. I think my last question I usually always add in an interview is anything else you'd like to add? And sometimes that's where you get your best stuff. You'll find out, oh, you worked here, or I had no idea, or I once added in an interview, oh yeah, I did the Disney College program. And as I was kind of on my way out, and they said, really? And it started this great conversation, and they had worked there, and we started to build a rapport, and you're kind of developing that comfort level as an interviewer. So you might have something in common that maybe puts them a little bit more at ease that you can talk about. But I know a couple of you guys asked some questions that we got to see in advance about, hey, what if you're, asking a principal about a really hard question or something that might be difficult. And so I think the thing to think about, we mentioned conversational, but also be as respectful as possible. So it's okay to ask fair and tough questions, but you do need to be respectful and think about, if this was my family member, I'm being asked the question, what's a respectful way to be asked? A lot of times we don't always see that sometimes on some of the media, but I know that we can do a really good job with saying, I need to ask you about, when do you think we'll be able to have these events at the school? Or this must be a hard decision to make. Can you tell me what went into it? And I know when we used to do like in the King's locker room, they would always say, don't go in and ask them, how'd you feel about tonight's game? Obviously it was a loss. They feel terrible. They don't want to talk to you. So you have to say more about, tell me something positive that the team learned tonight. Try to be fair about it, still get them to answer those questions, but in a way that's respectful, especially if it's something you agree or don't agree on. It's still important to try to hear their side and get both sides if you can. And then I know someone else asked, what do you do if they still don't answer your question? And that's okay. So if you have your kind of main questions that you want going in and you're listening and you're thinking, okay, that's neat, it's okay to go back and say, you know what, let me make sure we got everything. I want to get back to, and again, ask that question. And think about asking them in a way that would be maybe like if it was after a loss, not how do you feel about tonight's game, but maybe more like, what was it like playing with this team this year? We had to kind of transition a little bit on one of our football senior nights where the score didn't end up going our way, but it was a really emotional, great night for the team to play together for senior night. And so the questions maybe changed a little bit, not about the score of the game, but more about what the memory was like playing on the field that night. So hopefully those are some helpful tips for you guys. Keep it conversational. It's okay to practice. I still have to practice. It's okay to be a little nervous. Those are some good tips that Nick and Doug were going over about where you sit and the lighting and everything that's going to make the interview look as good as possible. Your job's just to help make the person that you're talking to, and it could be you as well, giving information, just as conversational and natural as possible too. So Think about you're just having a conversation. I'm just talking to Nick or you, and that's kind of how you want the person that you're interviewing to feel too.
Yep.
So, I mean, we had 2 questions come in.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
What are ways to make the interview more of a conversation rather than you just asking questions to them?
So these are excellent questions. And sometimes, honestly, it takes practice, right? It's the first time you do it. It might feel not quite as smooth and comfortable. But again, think of it, it's the same thing with sort of news writing when you're working on your story. How would you tell a friend about what happened? Would you say, I encountered an automobile collision, or would you say there was a crash today? So when you're doing an interview, if you feel someone sounds really scripted, you can ask them, tell me about that, can you describe what happened, or can you tell me what it's like, your typical day is like, or what is it like to work here? Whatever your subject is, get them talking about something they're a little more comfortable with before it's, hi coach, I'm here to ask you, how come you have the worst season in record so far this year? And maybe don't start quite there. You might want to get them to talk about, why do you like coaching and something special about the team? And then, gee, it's been a tough season. Can you tell me about some of the challenges? And how do you feel that you might be able to respond to these challenges? So still conversational, hopefully still fair and respectful, but in a way that still gets you some of the information that you need. So for me, that's usually asking them, spell your name for me. What's your favorite thing to do when you're not at work? And sometimes oh, we watch the same TV show, or oh, we read the same thing. We both like this, going to this same place for vacation. So you learn, you get a little bit of rapport with them. And I think still sometimes people have what they want to say scripted and written out. And if you said, oh, I'd love to help ask you a few questions, because you won't hear me, but I want to be able to make sure we get your best answer. So we might ask you a question a couple times in a few different ways to try to make it more conversational. Did that help, Pleasant Grove? PG?
I think that was great. And I think I can add to that would be, just make yourself comfortable first. That's the biggest thing. And then from, the camera op perspective, if you have someone with the camera, sometimes people get really nervous when you say, all right, we're recording now, let's go ahead and start the interview and action. So that can make people really nervous when you actually give them all that pressure all at once. So if you are working with your producer, whoever's talking to your interviewee, that you let them know quietly, hey, we've been rolling for 5 minutes. Just keep doing what you're doing because this is great. Because if you can get that conversational, attitude as opposed to the scripted, all uptight and very rigid body type, you want to make sure they're relaxed and comfortable. So sometimes not letting them know you're recording is good too.
And keep rolling. Sometimes you go back and you get a 2-shot of you talking, or them walking down the hall and you're walking with them. Sometimes they might tell you something really interesting then too that you can keep talking and follow up on. So keep the audio and conversation going, and try anything else you want to add or that you want to let people, and they might not, but other times people offer something like a really good nugget in that last part. Yep. And don't be afraid to, if they, as you're listening, if it takes, sometimes people want to collect their thoughts before they give an answer. It's really normal it's quiet, I need to fill this space, but let them think about it and take time to put their answer together. And that's okay too. Just like a conversation, if you're listening to a friend, sometimes it takes them a little bit to tell you about their day. So same thing with someone that you interview. It's all kind of part of the ebb and flow of a conversation.
Abby, can we pull Lainey's?
Well, her question was, what are ways to build enthusiasm for an interview?
That's a good question. I love it. Because not all interview subjects might seem woohoo. For example, taxes or city council, or maybe you as an interviewer yourself aren't quite as confident about the subject matter. Being prepared before you do the interview is a big part of that. So okay, here are the points that I want to the information that I want to get out of this interview. But building enthusiasm for it comes with you're prepared. You do your best, as best you can, to make the person that you're talking to comfortable, that they're having a conversation. always, I think, you know, they're giving you the gift of their time, or you're giving us the gift of your time. Thank you for being here too. So thank you for being here. Tell me about your day. All right, we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to start with this first. How's that sound? And then give them a chance to respond. And so if you try to, break up the questions a little bit so it's not quite like a really long kind of scripted answer, that can take some of the enthusiasm and energy out of an interview if they were talking for a long time. If you're kind of losing interest as they're answering the question, it might not be the most interesting interview to take back and edit. So just be listening as they're talking. And if they say a really long answer and there's something in there that you think is really interesting, thank you so much. Tell me a little bit more about that last part that you had to say. And then you're letting them rephrase that and get comfortable. You know, they may be really nervous. We sometimes ask the same question a couple different ways, or when we do our record our scripts, sometimes we do it more than once, because the second time people are settled in. So it's always good still too to maybe not have like a couple hard hitting, boom, boom, right off the top, build that, thank you for being here, here's what we're gonna do today. And so by the time that they're a little bit more comfortable, then maybe the energy and the enthusiasm is higher. So it can be more challenging depending on the subject, but still, I think still possible if you're as prepared and conversational. That helps.
Yeah.
Thanks for the question.
I have a question. So I'm asking this on behalf of my students. So in preparing interview questions, I stress a lot for them to go back to the basics, the 5WH, right? Who, what, when, where, and so on. And so my question was regarding beyond just those basic generic questions, can you recommend any other general use or general purpose style questions that can apply to any variety of situations, and yet at the same time can be tailored to any one specific interview topic or situation pretty readily or pretty easily?
Yeah, awesome. I love the five. I love the who, what, when, how, and why. Those are great. Those are great starters. If you have time to do a little bit of research about the person that you're interviewing, that can be helpful. If you go in with a little nugget that you think is going to help them light up a little bit. For example, the principal at our school is an avid golfer. So if you walk into her office before an interview, she has like a small putting green. So if you can maybe learn a little bit of something, or if you're going to talk to someone at the River Cats, oh, wow, they've been here 20 years. What's the best part about working here, or why have you stayed so long? If you have that little nugget, that little background research about whatever topic you're going into, and sometimes you have to dig a little more, like when I had to cover city council, that I didn't always have those nuggets on the tip of my tongue, but real quick, you can Google now. Really, one that works for me is, tell me about the best part about your job, or the best part about today. Because whether it's a football team that's played their last game together, or it's a teacher that's had a great day or a tough day, or a student that's just won an award, or is, they're a little nervous about maybe master changing. If you get them to have that idea about, describe your day, or what was the best part about your day, whatever it is the interview topic is, you kind of can see that human part about them. And then I always like the tell me something people may not know about you, because you'd be surprised to get some of the answers that people will share. Oh, I worked at Walt Disney World as a character. What? Well, that's kind of interesting. Tell me about that. And before you know it, they're sharing something really cool. So just those general kind of human questions about, what was the best part or hardest part about your day / job? Tell me about the most challenging part about your job, or the most rewarding part. And you generally get more of a human side about someone. So, and even if it's like a more of a heated situation or interview or topic, a debatable topic, if you ask someone to describe, why is this so important to you? They can share something really cool too. And a lot of students did with the Defining 20 this year, or the instructional videos, they did something that was really meaningful. And so when you think about how you're answering those questions, think about, why was this so special to me? And you get those more heartfelt answers that come across as more sincere than, yeah, I did it because I like to cook. So you want to kind of scratch the surface a little bit more. I don't know, that was probably a long roundabout answer, but if you can dig for a little nugget and know a little bit of background, and kind of get them to describe the best part or the most challenging part of XYZ, game, day, job, that might help a little bit.
Very cool. Thank you. Fantastic.
Yeah, no problem.
We got another question here from another Pleasant Grove. Yeah. Hey.
I love your setup, you guys. That looks great.
We're in our classroom.
I know. I'm impressed. It looks really good. I want to come visit. That looks good.
Yeah. Okay, so we had two questions.
Okay.
The first one was, what is the significance of having the interviewee framed to where there's dead space to the left or right, or just like background or whatever?
And then when they're framed to the left or the right, should the person interviewing be to the right, the opposite side of the camera, if that makes sense?
Good question. You want to take that one, Nick?
Yeah, this is a great question. So let me bring up our two shot here so you guys can see this better. So I think for your first question, why do we do it? Biggest thing is it adds that production value, okay? It makes your shot look that much more high quality when you have, you know, the leading looks off to the side. I can show you, if we just tilt the camera, we pan it to the left here, you know, we get her centered up right there, and if Melissa looks right down the lens, you know, we can do the interview that way. It's, again, just a different look. When you go for this look, with the leading looks off to the side, and I'll stand over here on this side, this is the, for your second question, what side of the camera do you want to stand on? It's wherever your subject is looking off to the side. You can see that Melissa's looking this way, so the, you know, my hand, she's looking in all this dead space here. So I'm going to stand on that same side, because if I were to stand on the other side and she were to look at me this way, you can see that doesn't look very flattering. So I'll pop back over here, and then this is where, you know, your producer would stand on this side. And again, adding to that production value, you know, it makes it look like you have, you know, several people behind the camera of your shot for this one interview, when in fact it can be just one person asking the questions, and you have your camera on a tripod. Doug, anything you want to add to that?
One of the things sometimes when I describe this is when Melissa's looking off camera, we're, as the viewer, we're listening into a conversation. And whereas when the subject matter is looking right at the lens, then they're speaking directly to the viewers. So normally you would see in our, you know, obviously over the last couple of years with living on Zoom, everyone's looking right at the cameras, and because we're communicating with each other directly. And so with capturing a story, though, that we're listening in and you know, learning about this topic as a listener and a viewer, rather than them speaking directly to us. So I don't know if that's helpful, makes sense, but.
Absolutely.
And sometimes, you know, what we call the one-man band or the one-woman band, it might be just you. So that's where a tripod's so handy, because you can kind of mark where the person's going to stand and then just go stand on the other side of the camera. So they're still talking to you, slightly looking left. So if it's just Nick and I, or you're interviewing, you know, someone at home or someone at school, you can still have that leading look, even if it's just one person. And it's, as Nick said, it just adds to the production. The one thing I would say to keep in mind as you think about, let's say you have two people in your story, it can be helpful to vary that up. So if you go from one interview, and I'm looking, you know, to the left, as Doug and Nick said, for our conversation, then the next interview you set up, you might want to be mindful of just, you know, your access rule of where that camera is, so it doesn't kind of be a jump cut, if that makes sense. If they sort of pop out of nowhere, your next interview is talking, it's like, oh, they just like were looking that way and now they're looking this way. So you do have to keep track a little bit. Okay, I had her talk looking this way. I'll make sure for my next interview we position it and they're talking here. If you're doing multiple interviews with the team or something like that, try to vary it up a little bit.
Yeah, that's a great point, because when we shoot interviews out at school sites, you know, we're shooting 10, 15 interviews at a time in the same space. So a lot of time what we'll do is we'll shoot 3 on one location, you know, in this exact spot. And then what I'll do is I'll pick this chair up, I'll move it to the side a little bit, adjust the lights a tiny bit, spin the camera, and then that gives us a whole different shot to go. And then we don't have all these interviews. Instead of having 15 in the same spot, I only have 3, and I can easily cut in different interviews from different angles, you know, for different shots that I've set up around the room to make the viewer more interested. And instead of, you know, again, those jump cuts that Melissa was saying, it's not going to be a jump cut because we are cutting to a different shot. So
Next time, stand on the other side of the camera and then the
Yep.
third person back that way. So.
Yeah, and like Nick said, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll actually end up spinning all the way around the room with our setup by the time we're done. And obviously the background, dictates where we can point the camera, but a lot of times we'll end up just spinning throughout the whole time. And one other thing to keep in mind is the framing Nick has right now on Melissa is one setup. But a lot of times what I'll do when I'm trying to shoot interviews, I'll maybe start here with this type of framing. And then after I get through those first couple of questions, and I'm getting into maybe a little more sensitive stuff, I'll actually push in and get a little tighter shot and frame in, say just like, so yeah, something like that, just so we have visual variety as we move through our edit when you use it. So that's something else to, keep in mind. And there's also other techniques you can use if you're shooting really high resolution, like 4K, but you're editing in a 1080 timeline. You can just trick that in your editing procedure as well. But.
Yeah, great stuff. Do we have any more questions? Not at the moment.
You guys ready to do your SEVA interviews? Hopefully this helps you guys be rock stars.
Yeah. Doug, do we want to talk about our next section, how you should always ID your interviews?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, so yeah, when we shoot interviews, we always start our interviews with the interviewee saying and spelling their name. Normally during the course of a school year, we're shooting hundreds of interviews, and having that ID at the beginning is just critical because it helps our editors, organize the clips so they know what is this file I'm looking at, as well as find those interviews later on, because we end up changing the file name so it matches who that person is and what school they're from. So Nick's got a quick little piece in his video here we're going to share that reminds you of how we'd like you to start your SEVA producer interviews. So here we go.
When recording an interview, we always want to make sure we start off with an ID. Here are the 3 steps we want you to take when recording an interview and submitting to the SEVAs. Step 1, say and spell your name. Step 2, tell us what school you're from. Step 3, give us an intro to your interview. Say your first name, what school you attend, and the name of your video. Always respond to questions in complete sentences. Kaser, take it away.
My name is Kaser, Kaser. I attend Rio Americano High School. My name is Kaser and I go to Rio Americano High School. The name of my video is Breathe.
All right, so.
Very important, very important.
Awesome.
Always do that. Even if you're not doing a SEVA interview, if you're shooting an interview for a documentary, it's gonna help you in the long run. All the professional news stations, when they shoot interviews, they always do an ID, because if you're interviewing someone you don't know out in the field, and you don't know how to get in contact with that person later, you want to make sure you can spell their name right when you get your footage back to your edit. So
it's huge. Yeah. Cool. All right. What do we got next here? Hey, so Abby, we're going to throw it to you now, actually.
Go Abby.
So Abby's got some tips for using a computer for your interview, because some may not have access to cameras or a cell phone. And she's also going to talk to us a little bit about where you can find the questions that we need answered for your SEVA producer interview. So it's all you, Abby.
Yes. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is for Zoom interviews, because those are still going on. Think about where the person is in their house, because just like all of these, we really want the person to look good. And if you're recording it over Zoom, unfortunately, it's kind of up to their hands to figure out how to make themselves look best. So just a little bit of coaching on your end will go a really long way. So right now I'm in my house. I picked this kind of neutral background, but what if I came onto your Zoom and I was over here in front of my doors? Okay, I'm ready for my interview. Hi. Like this is not good at all. So you could say, okay, well, it's a little bright right there. Can you sit maybe facing the window, and just politely ask them to move? And they'll be happy to do that, because they'll be more happy at the end when they see your finished video. I could also scoot it over here, but I've got these lights. So they're kind of bright right there still, right? So I'm not, and then you could also have that thing where it's like coming out of the top of your head, like in a really weird and distracting way. Nobody likes that. So let's not do that. So I'll go back to kind of where I was. This is a little bit more of a neutral background. My face is facing the windows now, so it's lighting me up pretty well, so that's good. The other thing about Zoom is everyone likes to have fun with those virtual backgrounds, so you could have them do that. But, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. So if they have like the Hawaii beach with like the palm tree swaying right there, and they're talking about a real serious thing, it might not work. So definitely a lot of people have the blur function. I don't use it as a curly haired person because it like does a really weird thing to curly hair. So it might not be an option for everybody, but that, you know, definitely takes out all that background. So that's something you could really think about there. Yeah, and then just try to get that neutral angle. You know, some people, they sit really close to their laptops and, you know, you just want to kind of coach them. Okay, just sit, you know, try to make your eyes even with your camera. Try to sit, you know, do that headroom, you know, the full thing, not really the leading looks because they're going to be looking at you in the camera, but you can still just give them a little bit of coaching on that. Most people get a free set of earbuds with whatever they buy, and those have little microphones on them, and they work really well. So that's better. It's going to sound a little better than their microphone in their laptop. And then, yeah, I would just play around in your Zoom settings first. Like I've even done this before we do interviews, just get on Zoom by yourself and just say, okay, what does this do? What does this do? How do I make the highest quality recording? You know, get into your settings, make sure all that's dialed in before you get started. And definitely if you're interviewing someone on Zoom, use your, because if you say anything, it's going to cut out their audio during that time. So you want to make sure that you're on mute or that you're very, very silent when they're talking. So that's most of the Zoom thing. We had a question about, let's see, Pleasant Grove has a question. Let's bring you guys in back. All right, Ryan and Angelina, do you have a question about interviewing?
Yeah, so my question was, how would you frame interviewing two people, if there would be any dead space, or if it would just be like us like right next to each other?
Yeah, that is a hard one, because if you look at your image, I mean, you two are probably sitting like pretty close to each other, like you feel natural. But usually when we interview more than two people, we have them like really, they're touching, you know, because you have to really squeeze in there to get them close to the shot. So you don't have like, there's kind of that dead space down there in the middle. So that's the main thing that we do. It's hard to interview more than one person at a time, though. It's really hard.
The important thing I would say, if you are interviewing two people at the same time, is making sure that the person who's not speaking is actively still participating with their body language, and that they're listening and they're not just like looking off or putting off negative vibes about what the person's saying, but that they're there, that you're there together as a team, and that hopefully you're both mic'd up and they can both provide input to the answer, but you're kind of doing it in a choreographed way that is positive and moving things forward. But we've had some where sometimes we'll have like, oh, can we interview two people or three or four? And it really starts to, it can be problematic, especially if someone's not focused as on whoever's speaking. So just keep that in mind, really taking a look at your whole image. So.
Yeah, and if you only have one microphone, Doug, what's your suggestion on how we can still shoot more than one person with a single microphone?
Yeah, so usually our trick for that is we put the microphone right in between the two people on their shirt, on the shoulder. And our microphones are all black, and so hopefully, depending on what's being worn, you can hide it that way. But that's one way.
Doug, can you guys show the leading edge shot with Caitlin, Megan, and Emma? I think the lighting, that's the other thing. The lighting, if you have more than one person, you're welcome, ladies. Good to see you. But I think you guys did a good job of trying to have all be equally lit and not too much headroom above you. So nice job, ladies. Sometimes you have to tilt up or down And that's okay. And it's okay to ask the person that you're interviewing, thank you so much for being here. Would you mind if we adjusted that a little bit? We want you to look the best possible because you're kind of the experts. And I know you guys had to interview someone on their phone, and it can be awkward asking someone to move their camera, but if it looks better, like in Pleasant Grove, you guys with the lighting, that's equal lighting for all three of you guys, and it looks like you're close enough to the screen. But I liked it, even though you might have felt uncomfortable, Pleasant Grove, when you guys got closer visually for an interview. Yeah, you're touching kind of basically, and nobody at home has to know that, but and then, you know, if Megan was to be doing an answer, Emma and Caitlin would be looking like, oh, like Doug mentioned, really like interested in what you were saying. So,
yeah.
Sometimes when you.
I was just going to say one thing about your shot is think about your camera, because if you're capturing Caitlin, Emma, and Megan with this shot on like a DSLR, somebody's probably going to be out of focus because of the focus. If they're on a laptop, that looks great. If you're on just a camcorder kind of thing, you could probably do it, but just really consider, because sometimes if the people are in different planes, somebody could go out of focus. So there's definitely, there's an effect there.
That's perfect. Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah, it's that shallow depth of field. You're right.
Yeah. So, you know, it's cool because if the people are interacting, then it's really good video, but there's a lot of ways you can go wrong. So, but that was a really good question. Yeah.
Melissa, Nick, anything else you want to add? I'm using one of your interview techniques here.
Yeah, anything else you'd like to add? Final closing thoughts. This is a chance. You guys have done all the hard work of doing your interviews. So this is when you get to shine and really share a little bit about the why and the passion and the reason you wanted to do it. For some of you, you might have done a really serious topic that was important that you wanted people to learn about. For others, it was about a creative concept that you wanted to do, or a game or a sport that you love. So this is your chance to let people know a little bit about the vision, the passion behind why you did it. So this is a chance to show, as they mentioned, your personality. So think about it, you know, hi, I'm Melissa May, and my SEVA video is about what it's like to teach broadcast media. Have you ever wondered? Boy, am I going to tell you. So you can be conversational, talk about how you made the video, and it's kind of, think about it like your red carpet speech about why you did it and why it was important, and you know what you got out of it.
Yeah, so we can't wait to see your interviews. And so I just want to say, hey, thank you, Melissa, for coming over to our shop today to do this with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Melissa.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Thank you all
guys.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.